What's up, guys? Today we are talking about three-point perspective. All right, so if you've been watching any of the videos in this series, I do have a playlist that I will link above here of all my perspective videos. Today we are going to be covering what's called three-point perspective. So in the perspective world, we have 1 point, we have 2 point, and then we have 3 point. And so the question we're probably wondering right now is what makes it different from 1 point or 2 point perspective, right? Well, realistically, it's definitely not 1 point, but it pretty much is just a more advanced version of 2 point perspective. What I mean by that is it has a vanishing point over here, somewhere over there, and the only addition or thing that is different is that it also has a vanishing point up at the top. So the reason that we have this is because it's trying to show the distance from every angle. I know that this building is going off to the side, this building is going off to the side, but if this is a skyscraper and I'm staring up at this massive, who knows, 50-story plus building, that's also disappearing from us in space. So therefore it also has its own vanishing point, because potentially if this building went on for miles and miles and miles, it would eventually vanish to my eyesight, right? So that's why even though this would be a straight, rigid up and down building, it's still disappearing to a vanishing point. What is it used for though? Okay, so it's basically used for mainly cityscapes. You can use it for any object that's existing in space that is tall. You can use it for people too if you're trying to show really exaggerated forms of stances. Like if you were to say put a camera at like the angle of your foot looking up at you and you were kind of figuring out, how do I foreshorten that pose? How do I figure out what that pose looks like? You can use it for that. It's mainly used for cityscapes, and it's used to show two things primarily in cities. It's used to show that we're either looking up at something, like right, we're standing at the bottom of this building potentially and we're looking up, or the opposite, we are looking down, right? So we're all looking down to the ground. So potentially like you're standing on top of another building and you're looking down towards the street view, and you can even continue in and draw in the street and whatever you want. It could be a whole street corner scene going on. Only differences here is that just like in the last picture I showed you where you had your vanishing point over here, and here is now these vanishing points are higher on our paper, and then the vanishing point for the building's distance disappearing from us is now on the bottom. Okay, you can see they are all converging down that way. All right, so now that we understand what this is for and what this is about, how do we set it up? We'll go over both looking up at a building, looking down at a building. I'm just going to keep it to simple shapes today, and then I'll make more videos in the future about detail and structure and stuff like that, just like I've done with the perspective videos in the past. But for today, let's keep it simple. Let's just get down to the basics of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go start with my looking up at a building, right? So we're going to imagine we're a person standing on street level. We're in New York City or something, and we're looking up at a really nice big skyscraper. So what we're going to do for this is you can actually draw your horizon line first, but so it's going to sit on that vanishing point, right? So I'll go for my horizon line. I can use a nice fun blue. With the horizon line, what you don't want is you don't want it to sit here all the way at the bottom, because then you can't draw the base of the building. You could do that if you want. If you wanted to make this building look so massive in appearance that you couldn't even see the bottom when you tilt your head all the way up to look to the top. But if you want to see the bottom, make sure it comes up a little bit. And again, you guys can see that the white square here is my paper, and I'm drawing the vanishing points off my paper. Traditionally with 3 point, you want really big distance to make it seem realistic. The idea here being, if we are drawing something so big that we can see the top of it, you're going to have a wide field of view. So the vanishing point's not going to sit somewhere here, because then the buildings are going to be so skewed that it's just going to look really funky and wonky. Okay, so that's going to be my horizon line where my building sits. I'm going to grab my red, choose where I want my vanishing points to be. That's fine. That's fine. And then I need my third one, right? So my third one is essentially going to sit somewhere in the middle, right? Like if I cut this page in half, I'm saying somewhere in the middle and at the top. So I'm going to put it all the way at the tippy top as far as I can put it up here. That actually looked a little over to the right. There we go. Cool. Doesn't need to be super perfect, but if you're standing straight at the base of a building and looking up, that's where the vanishing point would be, exactly where your eye's going. Not going to be over here, not going to be over here, because then the buildings are going to look like they're tilting over, right? So now we set up our drawing. Just like in 2-point perspective, we're looking and seeing the corner of a building, okay? So I'm going to start my page with a line. I'm going to have it, I'm just going to draw a line for now. I know I'm going to have to erase some of this, but for now, I want to draw that line. Okay, remember, draw lightly at first. You will have stuff to erase. This is still perspective. Okay, I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to decide how wide I want this building to be. For my purposes, I feel like I just want, just to mess around, I'm going to have one side be long and then the other side be shorter. Realistically speaking, even though that my points are off my page right now, I will say that this is still actually too close to my page and we're still going to get a very skewed building. But for the sake of practicing, this is pretty good. So now where my building is going to go up, it can't just go straight up because remember, we're looking at a skyscraper that's going so high into the sky, they literally renamed them as skyscrapers, right? They're scraping the sky. So I can't just have a building that's just straight line going up because then it's going to look short. What we need is something that looks really tall, massive. It's towering over us, right? So we're going to line up with our third vanishing point up there. And I'm going to bring that line up. Okay. Same thing on the other side. I'm going to come over here. So you can see when the vanishing point is a little too close to the paper, it kind of ends up looking like a pyramid shape. But we're going to try to flatten that out a little bit. But again, if we're trying to draw something a little more realistic, I would say ideally you're going to do a further away vanishing point. I want to be able to see the top. So I'm going to draw in my top here. And there we go. We have our building in perspective. And you can keep going with this if you want. You can keep adding to your city. So if I wanted another, let's just say I want another block over here just for sake of example. I can add it on, like there's another building right here. Maybe I don't want it to go as tall. I want it to be a little shorter. And then it just follows our simple rules. Just like so, right? And you can continue with that whole aspect. And this becomes the city becoming really skewed and pointing up towards the sky and all that fun stuff. This is our example of looking up. All right, so now let's go to looking down. Setting up our picture for looking down, we're going to move our horizon line up. So right, our horizon line was down here. Now we're moving it up here because if you imagine looking forward, I always think at like a beach is a perfect example of the horizon, where the water meets the sky. That's your horizon. As you look down towards the sand, that where the water meets the sky is going to become higher and higher in your vision because your vision is now looking further and further down. Okay, it's the opposite of when I start to look up. The ocean now becomes at the bottom of my eye view, right? So we're going to be looking down at a building. So what we're thinking is that horizon line is going up. So it could be all the way up here. It could be even off the page, right? Again, you got to think about how grand and huge you're trying to make that building look. I'm going to keep mine down a little bit because I kind of want to draw the top part of the building too, just for fun. Again, just to repeat, these vanishing points are way too close to the paper in terms for 3-point perspective. But again, just for practice and just for setup, this is good. So I'm going to come in, put in my vanishing points. Okay, so now we're set up for 2-point. And now I got to try to find wherever the halfway point of this is. And I'm going to put my vanishing point all the way down there at the bottom. All right, so how do we get started with this one? Same process as the last one. Exactly the same. I'm just going to go ahead and put my line in. I know I want it to be somewhere around the entire side of my paper right now, so that's what I'm going for. and I'll find the base again. So bottom of my building, line it up to my vanishing points over here. I'm going to make the bottom pretty small because I want it to really appear like it's far away. Okay, so now I'm going to decide the height of my building. Now, what I could do is a couple things here. I can easily just close off the top of this building like so. And there you go. You have a building and you can peek at the top. But what if I want to draw the top of the building? I want to see the roof. Well, I got to make it a little shorter. I have to make it just below my horizon line. Because remember, everything below my horizon line, I'm personally looking down at, which is why right now I'm looking at the street and I could see probably cars and stuff driving by. Okay. But up here above the horizon line, this is still above my view. So this is kind of saying like I might be on a tall building right now, but this building is taller than me. So what if I don't want it to be taller than me? What if I want to show that rooftop? If you're drawing a comic or something, maybe you want to show some action going on in the ceiling of the building, whatever it is. So I'm going to erase that. I'm going to come in and now I'm just going to draw my rooftop underneath the horizon line, right? So go to my vanishing point here. And I want to still keep it pretty tall, so I'm going to work pretty close to that horizon line. And now I got to draw the rest of it. So now it goes back to this vanishing point, and I match that with my right side. I'm just going to make that line go a little longer just in case. And now I match this side with my right side. So left side of the building, right side of the vanishing point. And there we go. We have our building where we can still see the top and it's disappearing down into space. And again, you can just keep this up if you want. If you want this to be a really tight city block and all the buildings are touching each other, they're right next to each other. There's no alleyways or whatever it is. Again, you can just kind of continue that idea where the lines just keep going up. They're all converging to that bottom vanishing point though, okay? You just got to think through. Remember your practice from 2-point perspective. Okay, where do these lines converge with? All right, maybe I want this one to be above the other building. That's fine. But then I can't forget I got to draw the other side of it too. So I got to think about how big it is. Because I didn't draw this side of it, then it would just be flat 2D building, which is not our goal. Everything in perspective is always meant to be in 3D. Same with these guys, we would be seeing the top of the roof, right? So let me apply the same logic. So that would be the start of like a looking down position at a cityscape. Probably something, an example that you guys might have seen a lot in Spider-Man comics when he's flying above the city, or any really superhero comic where they fly through or above a city. These are always used to show grand scale of what they are, hurtling over, swinging by, whatever the term is of the superhero you're reading about. Cool. So this is the basics of 3-point perspective. I don't want to get too far into this video. I just kind of wanted this to be a normal tutorial so you guys can practice. Next week, I'm going to make a video about how to actually go about breaking down references and looking for which pictures to look for when you need references for 3-point perspective. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys next week.